Hello, everyone. This week we'll be talking about the Central Sudan area of Africa. And I have two links here if you want to learn more about the history of the region and the people that inhabit the region years ago, all the way through present time. Here is a map to kind of give you a visual of where we are in Africa. So we're now looking at what's called the Sahel. This is a region that stretches across the continent and is below the Sahara Desert. So the desert is a natural border and separates the region that we've been looking at from this region. The region above the desert is really where we have a lot of Arabic influence. The Arabs came in, they conquered, they changed the landscape there. When we look below the desert, we don't have that influence. So it is a unique location because of that. One, it's no longer desert, it's now grassland. And two, because when the Arabs come into North Africa, they marry, they have children with the people that are living there. We have lighter skinned people that are in the northern part of Africa, where here this becomes known as land of the blacks because people's skin is darker because we don't have that influence of the Arabs. We also have the Arabic term Sudan, which we'll be looking at. And this is used by European colonial power to designate the entire band of savanna south of the Sahara, which stretched from the Atlantic Ocean in the west to the Great Rift Valley of Eastern Africa. So the first thing I'm showing you here is from the Nok culture. And this is the oldest art in Western and Central Africa that has been found. And it was found by a small town called Nok, which is where it gets its name from. However, Nok terracotta has been found across central Nigeria, suggesting these objects were traded beyond the area of the village or the area of Nok. Most are human heads that have been broken from human bodies. Some are animals, though. And so when we look at this, we're going to see some very traditional things that we're going to see in a lot of the Nok art. One is we have this very stylized way of creating the face. We have a triangular kind of eye here, often with a hole in it, and these are hollow pieces of clay, I should say. We have a broad nose, open mouth, and you can see that it's hollow when you look here. You can see how this was definitely broken off of a larger piece. And in fact, this piece, believe it or not, it was used for a scarecrow head for a number of years. And then a person who was doing research in the area saw this and was like, who made this? And the people were like, well, we found it. And he's like, okay. So he ended up doing more research on it and discovered this terracotta was quite old and made by this group of people that no one knew about. And this time period, we're looking at circa 800 BC to AD 200. I have two videos here that will give you a little bit more information about the Nok culture. Let's look at one of the pieces of art here. So this is quite small, only a couple inches high, and this is a piece of terracotta. This is not hollow because it's very small. And it's very typical with the Nok art, as I said, to have this kind of stylized face, and we see that here. This is very exaggerated. It has a very large forehead. Here's the face. So here's that triangular shape eye with the dot in the middle, indicating a pupil. Here is the Here is the nose, the mouth. And then this person here, oh, let me say, here's the arm bent almost backwards. It would be like really uncomfortable position, almost impossible to have your arm like that. And then they're kneeling. So they're kneeling. The reason they have the arm attached like this to the head is because then it makes this little hole here. And we believe that this was worn probably at the waist. Again, it's only a few inches tall. And but it may have also been worn like a necklace, but most likely worn at the waist. This person is of high status, and we see that because this person has jewelry on it. It has a bracelet here, and then 1, 2, 3 big necklaces. So this person was very wealthy to have all of this jewelry. And then on the back of the head here, we have either most likely a very elaborate hairstyle, but it also could be a mask. You'll notice that the head is much larger than the body in proportion or scale. And this is because, and we'll see this actually again and again in African art. And the reason is because in African belief, the head is, it has the brain, it's where we think, but then it also has a spirit in it. So it's the driving force of the body. It's very important. So we're going to see in African art, when we have people, the head is usually too big for the body. And like I said, keep saying, we're going to see that a lot. When we did carbon dating on this, carbon 14 dating, it was suggested that the Nok image began about 800 BC and lasted until AD 600, spanning 1,400 years. Though most were made between 500 BC and the beginning of the Christian era. The Garanda are a Chadic-speaking people of the Golan River area, and they use fiery clay vessels to give supernatural beings a tangible presence. The vessels allow the Garanda to have physical contact with potent spiritual forces. So we're going to see that a lot of the art is used in this way to contact the spirits. And this, in fact, is called a spirit pot. 2 examples I'm showing you here. They're used inside the house shrines to worship local deities and ancestors with guinea corn beer, which is corn that's fermented into and made into a beer. And sometimes other sacrificial materials are used. You might have something like chicken blood or something like that. And let's look at these. Now what we're seeing are some very interesting things. So here we have our first one. You see how the liquid can be poured out of the mouth of the vessel or into it and then out of it, right? This one has the head. We have 2 eyes, a nose, 2 very tiny little arms. And then we have a lot of these kind of raised areas. We're going to look at this more and more in this area of Africa, where we have something called scarification. And scarification is when you take a small, sharp object and you're cutting marks onto your skin into a pattern, or somebody's doing it to you. And then you're getting what's called a keloid, scar over it to make these patterns. So these are typically done to people at different points in their life when they're going through rituals, to say like you're a child, now you're an adult, something like that. You're single, now you're married. And so it is a way of marking a person to indicate that they belong to an individual culture, an individual village, an individual family, um, to allow people to know what age grade they belong to. Are they a child? Are they adult? Are they married? And then also just to a way of beautifying oneself. Just like we might say we got a tattoo because we think it makes our arm look really pretty. We got piercings in our ears because I have my ears pierced a lot. I think most women here in the United States have their ears pierced. We think of it as very pretty. We wear earrings, right? So very similar in that sense. So here is more of this ritual of the scarification. This is called Helita, and Helita is done in several stages during a girl's lengthy betrothal to her first husband, beginning at age 5 or 6. Every time she receives a new set of marks, her fiance and his family must deliver gifts to her parents. There is thus a direct correlation between the sequence of Halitha patterns appearing on a girl's body and the number of bride wealth payments given to her family. And a girl may not consummate the marriage until she has received her final marks and the groom has fulfilled his obligations. New wives celebrate the completed Halitha in an annual harvest festival. The marks of men and women in many of Gangala River populations identify them as married members of a specific community or cultural group. Okay. And you can see here that these are quite elaborate that are done on the women. Here's an example done on a man. So we have both men and women that receive these marks. And there is a link here to a video. It just has images of people that have scarification. Scarification nowadays is not done that much, but at one time it was quite common in this area of Africa to have scarification. These are gourds that are dried and then the marks are carved or burned into the gourds. And the designs that appear on the gourds match the designs that were given to the girl that is going to get married. So the designs appear on the women's skin are also burned, impressed, or carved into the gourds. The decorated gourds must be given by the groom's family to the bride when the groom and the bride get married. I'm going to stop here for this video and pick this up in a new video in a second.